In this video, I'm going to be going through the method I use to make my music in my thriller film trailer. So the software I used to make my thriller film trailer was GarageBand. This is quite a popular method of making music for anything. You could set for a music video, for if you're an independent music artist, or for a trailer, movie film. GarageBand is quite a good software because it does a lot of things which allows you, as a creator, to show your creativity. There's a load of different beats you can mess around with and different tunes. I was actually new to GarageBand, as last year for my AS opening to Thriller Film, we had a different member of the group do the music, and as it had been independent this year, and as I didn't want to have second party or have someone else create my music, I wanted to make it myself so that the film was all me. So in this video, as I said, I'm going to be going through the method I used and how I learnt to use GarageBand. So obviously the way I eventually got used to using GarageBand was to have a play with it. I made a bunch of different tracks in the early going. This video mainly focuses on my last track. There could be another post up saying about my previous tracks where I used, and I only used them, they weren't any full songs, they were just beats that I would mess around with and just see how they sound with other beats to then come up with this final music for my film. So I've got GarageBand set up here on the screen. You'll be seeing some screenshots of my music as we go along. So just having a look at the overall basis of GarageBand. On the right hand side you can see there is lots of different collections you can use of sounds, and you can pick and choose your category. Now obviously if you've seen my music inspirations and my music history, you will know that I was quite into the intense music for my film, especially Inception in my music inspirations. I was massively inspired by that film because of the music that it used, and it inspired me because our films were so similar in the music I wanted to create that I took massive inspirations from Inception. Sorry. I didn't learn everything about GarageBand because I didn't really feel like I needed to. I only wanted to play around with it and see if I could create a realistic tune for my film, and I did end up creating one that I'm quite proud of, if I say so myself. Some people may not like my music, but for me personally, I really like it. I feel that it does have the correct theme for my thriller film, and I also feel that it's quite intense and quite bouncy to get my audience involved, which is a lot of what my inspirations were about. So at the end of this video, I will have a template of the music I've created for my thriller film so that you know what it sounds like before, and that will be an early access before the trailer. So finally, if we get into what we're looking at on screen now, you can see this blue line across the top. Basically what that is the first beat in my music, and when you hear it later, you will see that there's a piano that plays throughout the film. And that piano is actually what that is. I wanted to, it sounds quite nice, it's soothing, but it also has that kind of sinister feel to it. And I wanted to kind of have this uneasy atmosphere because as the trailer kicks off, John, he's not in a good place. He's not in a good equilibrium, and he's not having the best time. And I want to convey that through the music. So that's where I came. For starters, that's where this came in. This is kind of the base for my music. I kept it quite short. Sorry, not quite short. I didn't want to overcomplicate the backing track because this is literally just plays throughout. So if the music ever dies down, this bit is always at least faintly heard in the back. And I also think like it aids, it just carries the whole film through. Again, I really like the way it sounds when it's played against the trailer, because it does create this quite scary feel. And it's quite hopeless feel really, because it depends on your ear. Some people, this is why I really like it, because I asked a few people what they thought of it, and some said that it was quite scary, quite sinister, and sounded really dark. But then others said that it was actually it sounded quite hopeful. So I like the way that it kind of has a mixed view, and it just depends on your ear. But obviously I adapted this and added more to it. So the film trailer starts off with this beautiful piece of piano playing, and as we go along, as you see on screen now, there is now this little orange type of shape on the third beat down. Now this started off as a practice. It's an explosion sound. And originally, and actually in one of my first templates of music, this wasn't included. However, I felt that there was a transition that happened that felt a bit too sharp. So to fix this, I actually did a bit of editing and added cross dissolve, have a bit more of a space between it. I also added this. This boom sound effect really creates this kind of puzzled kind of feel to the trailer. And what it also does, it also kind of makes you think that we've moved location, because it sounds like quite a fast piece of a sound effect. So I think that works really well for changing location. I only used it once, but I feel like where the place I used it was really nice. I also feel that it works quite well between the transitions, and it also suits and changes up, allows for a change in pace on the piano. Because I wasn't much to talk about that, but as we move on, you can see that I have another blue pace just below there, just a couple of beats after. Now there is a little gap so that it's not straight after the boom, and the boom does die down. So what this is the things start to heat up, and John starts to realise things are going wrong. So then we're getting into more action part. So there is this little bit of a beat, and it sounded really nice. However, what it wasn't, it was lacking. It was lacking something, and I couldn't think about what that was. It sounded nice, and it kind of it really did grow on me, but it just found it a bit too empty. I felt that it did sound quite intense, and it did kind of convey, and it kind of changed the pace, of the trailer. However, it just didn't change. It just didn't have enough impact on the scene that we were witnessing. And the scene that you witness is actually John getting confronted by his friend. Then you see a flashback of him actually carrying a baseball bat, implying that he's actually the killer, or the person that's after his family. And that kind of music has to imply that something's not right. So a bit more of intense beat and will make the audience think that something isn't right. However, though this sounded nice, it just felt, as I keep saying, it just felt empty. It didn't quite overpower the piano, which I did want the piano to I didn't want to fade the piano out completely. As I said, it's a backing track, but the piano was still felt like the main course of this little section of the music, and it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be the more intense part. So to solve this, I thought that I may need to add something onto it. If I add something onto it, maybe it will make the music more interesting, and it will help make the trailer a bit more, imply that action and that suspense that I wanted to. So as you see now, I added in a couple of beats. One that even comes straight after the boom, because as I said, the boom does die down, and I felt it was too long of a gap. And this really works well. It's one of my favourite pieces of because as you'll see, they're not very long. They're sections of music, and this music is probably one of my favourite sections because it doesn't, as we'll get into the last bit, it doesn't feel like the end of a trailer. It just feels like a build up to the end of a trailer. And that's something I really like about it. It doesn't take away from the climax music, because obviously you have to have big climax music for the ending part of the trailer. And this doesn't take away from that, no siree. In fact, it just builds upon that, and it really, adding the more tracks really fit with what was happening on screen between John and his former friend, Mash. It worked really well. And it also kind of struck that fear into the audience, saying when they see the flashback of Mash carrying a baseball bat, okay, fair enough, the audience may not have get that Mash is actually the bad guy, but it definitely implied to them that something wasn't right. And that worked really nicely with this music. Something else that music does is that it's got quite a lot of sounds going on with it, and it does make it quite funky. And as you see in my inspiration video, I would quite like the funky theme of Jeff Lynne's ELO's Evil Woman, but it also had a serious theme. That's what this does. It's quite funky, but it's also quite serious and supports a serious theme of, someone could get hurt in this movie, which obviously we know it does. And the boom sound effect it's quite nice because it doesn't fade straight in from the boom. The boom fades out with plenty of time with the piano, and then when this kicks in, the piano is kind of not turned off, as I said, but overshadowed by this part, which is good because obviously these 3 beats are the main section of this piece of the music. So moving on, you can see that we've got another blue bar next to on the second row. So the way that this came about is as I was moving through, basically what I did, I had GarageBand set up on one side of my screen and the other side of the screen was set up with Premiere Pro, and I kept playing my film and seeing, well, firstly seeing what fit. And also I had to pull down the loops and extend the loops. You do that by clicking just on the edge and just extending or shortening the beat, and they're just repetitive, they just repeat themselves. But also if you mix match, they can make some really nice beats. And what I felt, shortening these down to the bit where I wanted them, we had this huge part of the section, and I knew what I wanted to have for the last section, not necessarily the beat, but I knew it was going to be different from the talking scene in the middle when John goes to see his niece. But I wasn't happy with just the piano playing. I wanted something more. The piano was an important part of this bit, but I wanted it there to be something more. So in order to do this, I had a look around, and I did find a beat that was quite smooth. It was a continuous beat, which kind of felt a little bit intense, and it also felt like quite suiting to the thing, scene, because it came together with the piano sound effect, created this quite magical feel to it. It didn't feel so serious as the first part with just the piano, but the piano could be heard in this bit, but that other beat kept that intensity that we had in the previous scene. And then and I really like that because the intensity I built up in the previous scene wasn't to be thrown away, you could say. It wasn't to be say, right, this isn't the end, so we're going to dial it back down. It builds it up, but it just doesn't build up to that point where it's the last bit. It dies down a little bit, but keeps that intensity just so, before we head into this part of the trailer, which is probably the best part in my opinion. So as you can see, I've got a few beats here, and what I really like about this is you can see this is the whole of my music. So the last section you can see I've added in a tad here, and I've got 2 extra beats down there. So basically the first little part is where the music builds back up again. And I like to keep this quite short and snappy because I wanted to just, it's a building up track. I didn't want to loop it, I just wanted it to build up, and then it hits that final part, which is these two, the bottom section, which goes on for longer than the top section. The bottom section is a beat. Just like that. The top section is the actual sound, which sounds really nice, and I just put that on a loop. And them two mixed together with the beat create a really nice melody, because it's like, it feels like that hopeful music I was talking about in my inspirational music about Inception. But it also feels quite unique to me and how it's hopeful, but there's a lot of action going on, and the audience is seeing quite a lot of action within my music. And the continuous beat in the background just kind of cements it as this kind of it basically like a spine, a back support for the main part of the song, building up, as I say, to the final fight or the final scenes. Because obviously the trailer gets fast towards the end to show like lots of different bits and lots of action, keep the audience on the edge of their seats. And so I needed a piece of music which suited that, and I believe I found that almost entirely. And as you can see from this next shot, this is the final completed version of my film. You can see I extended the top bit a little bit. Reason I did that is because I felt that it needed to go along the sound needed to go on towards the end of the trailer, because I felt like that's kind of the main part of the trailer, if you know what I mean. If you look at the music perspective, that is what the trailer builds to. Much like if you said like the video builds to the ending scenes of the lots of different shots in the trailer. Therefore, the way I just extended it so that this was kind of, the music ended with the main bit as the video clips did. And I also didn't want the piano to be overpowering at the end. I wanted to show a development in the music and show we've gotten away from the piano because things have changed towards the end of the trailer to get people excited to come back and see the full film. And in this last section, you can see that there's all lines over it. So basically, if you look in the top left-hand corner, there's these little 2 bars that's just highlighted yellow. And I can't really point it out, but basically what they are, you click on that and you get the volume of each separate bar line. So the most important parts, as you can see, they all fade down towards the end to fade into the next piece of music. The most important, however, is these last 2, because they fade down so that my actor Josh Chipperfield, who plays John, can say that the best line of the film, in my opinion, and all the talk that goes around are just the whispers of yesterday. I didn't want that line to be lost, so I faded the music. I faded the music till it was almost non-existent, so you could just hear it in the background, and then he has his shush moment, and then when the whispers of yesterday title comes up, it says, and all the talk that goes round is just the whispers of yesterday. No, this is my rise from the ashes, and I'm not wasting it. I wanted that to be heard as well, because that creates quite an eerie feel to the trailer, if you think about it. Therefore, if I kept that bit quiet and saying it's a whispers yesterday, the music is still playing lightly, but it feels a bit more. I didn't want there to be silence. I didn't want it to feel like unfinished. So the music plays slightly, but it's very quiet. So it just feels a bit eerie to end the trailer. And then it just doesn't end it on a whoop, so the music just cuts. It ends it on kind of like it fades out. It fades out to kind of end the trailer in a respectful manner, you could say. Because I hate it when you're watching something. It doesn't really happen with professionals, but you're watching something and they've got their music and the music just cuts at the end of the video. It just doesn't feel right, and it also feels a bit rushed. And I didn't want my trailer to feel rushed. I wanted to fade out nicely so that we could end the trailer on a positive point. And that is actually all the steps it took to make my music. And as you can say, I said I put the music at the end of this video. The music creates a really nice feel, I think, to my film, and it suits it really well. I feel like the music suits the themes of the film and also creates a really nice tone for the audience to listen to. And it's not just a music that follows the whole way through. There are different sections of the music. It sticks to its basics, it sticks to the initial idea, but it develops itself through the music. And it's almost like you have 2 separate pieces of music, the kind of sinister, intense building up part in this first half, and then the action-packed finale in the second half. And I think that works really well for my trailer, and I'm really happy this worked out to be, as great as it did work out. So thank you very much for watching. Now you know how you made my music. I will play the actual music at the end of this video so that you can hear just the audio, so you can see these different sections, and you can see I'll put the final photo, not the one with all the lines, but I'll put the final photo of my finished, all the beats in there, so that you can look at that and kind of contrast it to the beats you're hearing on screen. I think that'll work really well. But overall, I've really enjoyed making my music, and I've got a lot of use out of GarageBand, and I really hope you enjoy the music which you're about to hear. Thank you for watching.